Oh my god, I don't know why, but I actually ended up watching Raw last night. It had been a long time since I watched Raw, but I don't know, it's just a timing fit for some reason. And I was actually pretty much enjoying it. You know, there was a lot of things that I thought were a step in the right direction, you know, like Cody Rhodes coming out and getting attacked by Seth Rollins. Like I thought it was a good opening segment, all things considered, you know. Cody Rhodes, I mean, his pec just looked brutal. And Seth Rollins attacked him, which, you know, was better than Seth Rollins turning face. What the hell was that, right? Anyways, let's not talk about that anymore. Cuts! Let's talk about the real thing here. The worst decision in the history of modern wrestling, in my opinion. Edge was kicked out of Judgment Day when Finn Balor joined. Now, let's go through this little by little. Okay, first of all, obviously something happened backstage, right? Maybe Edge wants to take a break, or who knows, right? This was a good way to write Edge off TV for a while and have him come back and do what he needs to do. But I don't know if that's gonna work. Like, it's Edge cannot like come back as a face. That's just weird. Like, he just turned heel like a few months ago, you know? But nevertheless, it was a bad decision, right? Even if Edge didn't want to be around anymore or whatever the case was, maybe he was injured, I don't know, right? I don't understand why someone would start a faction to end it this way. Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, Judgment Day went from, like, the best faction in a long time to, like, the worst faction right now by far, right? It's like, who the hell gives a rat's ass what Damian Priest, Finn Balor, and Rhea Ripley are going to do together? Who cares? You know what I mean? It's three jobbers. Like, Damian Priest is like the only one there who's like remotely interesting. And in my opinion, he was made 50 times more interesting with Edge as like his mentor, if you will, right? Now, I just read an article. Some idiot was saying how like Judgment Day should be booked, you know? And I looked at a few articles like this, and some of them were smarter than others. But one of these people said that like Judgment Day should be booked with Edge in the background, and Priest and Rhea Ripley should be in the foreground, right? And that maybe, like, since this is similar to the Brood, it's absolutely nothing at all like the Brood at all. The Brood was like undercard wrestlers. The Brood was not a serious. Like, I understand now they present like Edge comes out with like the Brood music and the entrance, and they present it as if like, you know, as if the Brood was this like threatening faction. The Brood was like three undercard jobbers. Like, their leader was Gangrel, who was like an undercard nobody. Like, I think Gangrel like ended up winning like 0 WWE championships his entire run, considering that he's, you know, maybe he was like European champion once or twice. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think he ever won anything. I'm gonna Google it real fast. But like, they're saying like if Edge can do for Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley what the Brood did for him and Christian, what the hell are you talking about? First of all, Edge and Christian got nothing out of the Brood. They got nothing out of it. They were held back. They were held down by the Brood and that dumb gimmick. Edge and Christian didn't win anything when they were part of the Brood, right? Eventually, they broke out on their own, cucks, and then they became tag team champions when their gimmick stopped being that they're two vampires, but that they're just these two like obnoxious assholes, right? And then they tried doing the new Brood with the Hardy Boys and Gangrel, and that didn't work either. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the Brood sucked. You know, it wasn't good. Like, let's be honest. It wasn't good at all. It was stupid. You know? They were jobbers. They were like the jobbers of WWE at the time. And they were these two young guys. They were like, all right, we need to put them on TV so they can get some experience. But they're jobbers. You know? So with all that being said, cuckolds, this would never do what the Brood did. The potential here was much, much greater. Because this faction is being led by Edge, who is a Hall of Fame multiple-time champion. It's not being led by Gangrel, who never won anything in WWE. Like, everyone won something in WWE. Everyone was like a hardcore champion once or twice, except for Gangrel, it feels like, right? Gangrel was a jobber. Now, he was entertaining, but he was a jobber. Whereas in this case, like, it's the other way around. Like, Edge and Christian were better than Gangrel, but in this case, Rhea Ripley, Damian Priest, and Finn Balor are not better than Edge. First of all, Damian Priest and Finn Balor are both like in their 40s. Right? They're only a little bit younger than Edge. I mean, you know, they're like 8 years younger, so it's quite a lot. But nonetheless, it's like when Edge was 40, he was like a 15,000-time world champion, you know? So, no. He's never going to elevate Finn Balor and Damian Priest or Rhea Ripley, right? Like, none of this shit's going to work. It's only going to be a few months before Rhea Ripley's a face again, teaming with Nikki Ass, you know? So, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But let's say it like it is. Cuts, Judgment Day breaking up is stupid, all right? As far as I'm concerned, this is Retribution 2.0 now because it's a bunch of jobbers we're supposed to take seriously. Like, what did change with Damian Priest and Finn Balor, right? They were selfish douchebags, and now they're selfish douchebags, and Finn Balor is a heel. It didn't make any sense. It was poorly thought out. And honestly, once the segment started and Finn Balor came out, I could see where it was going immediately, right? Especially when Damian Priest started saying, like, we need to get rid of our limitations, Edge, and you're so great. And I'm like, oh, God, they're going to turn on Edge. And furthermore, does no one realize this yet? Finn Balor has no reason to ever hold a microphone. This guy has no personality and charisma. I don't care what, the Fergal Devitt was big in Japan. No, he wasn't. He didn't speak Japanese, so people thought he was cool because he didn't speak Japanese, right? But Fergal Devitt and Finn Balor are jobbers. Finn Balor, the fact that Finn Balor is popular is mind-boggling to me. Finn Balor should be the next S.A. Rios. Finn Balor, S.A. Rios is more charismatic than Finn Balor. Finn Balor got the mic and started talking. I'm like, oh God, Finn Balor's going to do like a double swerve. He's going to be like, I'm going to join, then he's going to attack them because his delivery was so shit. Then as the promo went on, the delivery got a little bit better, but then I'm like, something's wrong here. It just feels goofy. It's like, these three are so much worse than Edge. And it's like I started losing faith even before they turn on Edge. I'm like, oh God, they're going to turn him, but it's probably for the best in the long run, because there's no reason why Edge should be associated with these three jobbers. Like, it was getting, it should have been just Edge and Damian Priest, and then Finn Balor made sense, right? But it wouldn't be a good thing. It's just like, I knew they're going to add more people. But if you're going to add more people to create a bullshit faction, this faction will always be the faction that Edge started that turned on him, right? Doesn't matter what they do. I don't care if they all become world champions. They're never going to be this dominant faction, because the only reason people would ever tune in to watch it was Edge. And now they kicked Edge out, and this was used to promote them, to say like, wow, aren't they badasses? They're really attacking Edge and trying to like hurt him, right? But it's like the discrepancy between them and Edge is like insane, right? Like when Edge comes back, right? Like nobody thinks that Edge is going to come back and Finn Balor is going to beat him, right? And even if they book it that way, no one is ever going to think that Finn Balor will ever be on the same level as Edge. So it's preposterous. It's just a stupid thing to do. You can make the argument otherwise. Look at what happened, for example, with the Hurt Business, right? Instead of having Shelton Benjamin or Cedric Alexander, who are obviously lower than Lashley on the card, betray him, they have Lashley betray Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin kick him out, right? Lashley MVP at the time. Because clearly, he's the superior one. Lashley's not worried about what Cedric Alexander might do in the future. He doesn't give a damn. He'll beat his ass, right? Same thing with Edge, Finn Balor, and Damian Priest. It's like, why would Edge, a multiple-time Hall of Famer, care about what two mid-carders and a mid-card broad are doing to him? He'll come back, he'll just concerto all of them, no problem. Now, if these people were smart, if WWE was smart, they would just have Edge come back and build another faction, because this was going pretty well. Only because of Edge, though. Or, if they really have intelligence, they're going to just wait till Christian's AEW contract expires, hopefully sooner rather than later, and they're going to just sign Christian and bring back Edge and Christian, and have them feud with the Bloodline, which is what everyone wants to see. People were talking about it, and people they're okay with, personally me, I was okay with settling with having, Judgment Day versus the Bloodline. Of course I'd prefer Edge and Christian versus the Bloodline. Edge, Christian, and bring Jungle Boy with you or something, I don't know, right? Of course, I would prefer Edge and Christian versus Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, right? It makes much more sense. I would maybe have them and Riddle or something. I don't know. It makes much more sense. Or Orton, if you really want to make it a big deal. It makes a lot more sense. But I was settling for Judgment Day because the end game was going to be Edge versus Roman Reigns. Obviously, if Christian comes back, I would want Christian to be the champion, but that's a personal favorite right there, But, the end game is not like the faction versus the faction. Nobody gives a damn if Finn Balor and fucking what's-his-face and Damian Priest beat the Usos. Nobody cares about that. The end game was Edge becoming champion, right? And having a faction and saying, I've made it again, and I've done it while also building a faction. Giving himself another opportunity to become a Hall of Famer, not with the faction, but I'm saying another way to add to his Hall of Fame resume and be like, wow, this guy didn't just settle for he didn't have the Big Show and Mark Henry path where eventually they became Hall of Famers and now they're just around being Hall of Famers. He wants to continue, right? So the fact that the end of the faction, in my opinion, is really stupid. I completely see Judgment Day falling into obscurity. I completely see them. This has Retribution written all over it, right? It's the same exact formula. The formula is, wow, this thing's going to be a big deal. And then you take away from it what made it a big deal. In this case, it's Edge. In the case of Retribution, it was the mystery. right? Because they had nobody good. The whole point was like, oh, who are these guys? One of these guys is going to get a huge push. And then you learn that it's fucking Mustafa Ali, and you're like, oh, okay, this is going to be a jobber faction, obviously, right? So, same thing. Damien Priest, he's good. I like Damien Priest. I still do, like I've always liked him, even when he was in ROH. But Finn Balor and Rhea Ripley, these people are just going to hold him back. I don't know, kayfabe-wise, why Damien Priest turned on Edge and sided with Rhea Ripley and Finn Balor. It would make more sense for him to turn on Finn Balor, who they just beat. Edge is better than Finn Balor. Edge is not limiting them in any way. He was like, I'm proud of you both. Right? Edge was already kind of turning face. But it doesn't matter. The point is, Edge, like, he's going to be a face now just because, like, they already, like, turned him face if you consider it, because they attacked him and the fans started cheering when Edge was fighting back, right? Because Edge didn't go down like a bitch. He was like, yo, I'm going to fight you back, obviously, right? But it's like a few minutes before that, Edge was talking about darkness and how, like, Judgment Day is going to, like, take over, basically. And it's like, you can't just turn face because your buddies who are heels turned on you. That doesn't make any sense. So I'd like to see Edge come back as a heel. And I don't know how he's going to reinvent himself now because he just cut his hair too. Like, I felt like this was really, like, fitting in very well. So I'm very disappointed in myself. Judgment Day was one of the only reasons why I watched the pay-per-view. So I guess I'm back to not watching pay-per-views anymore, motherfucks. Have fun, WWE. Have fun with your shitty faction. Like, who the hell thought of this? Finn Balor, Damien Priest, and Rhea Ripley. What? Just call them the Job Squad 2.0 and get it over with. Cuckolds. Pin this bitch.